I've always found fun in studying game systems and theory crafting within them, be it for trading card games, board games, video games, or role-playing games, employing the process even for games that I have no intention of playing, and enjoying the process sometimes more than playing the game itself. This video is an introduction to a series in which I cover character concepts I've created for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but these build stories are secretly segues to what I had to learn about the rules to create the concept, and consequently, problems I found with Paizo's phrasings and how I would rewrite them for simplicity and to support synergies between feats and features. For each build, I presently plan to have a longer form video in which I delve into detail about the full process of the character's creation, accompanied by shorts presenting the build as a finished framework without the story, and summarizing why I take issue with a given set of rules and how I would rewrite them in a way that minimizes changes to their mechanics but maximizes clarity. This video won't contain a full character build or story, but is a proof of concept to show my phrasing suggestions to be simple and sound. Paizo's business model is a marvel in the modern age, all mechanics-based books being available for free online, with only adventure paths and world-building books being monetized. Between community resources such as Archives of Nethys and Pathbuilder 2nd Edition, I was left in awe of the accessibility afforded to Paizo's Pathfinder players. My opinions on the game system itself have been somewhat mixed, however. Features and feats that should synergize or combo can't, primarily due to Paizo's phrasing, though the community's misinterpretation of rules can create common misconceptions that block synergies as well. Paizo is understandably determined to deter unintended interactions between present and future feats, but their execution is flawed. Take, for example, the multiple attack penalty. The multiple attack penalty rules state this is typically -5 on the second attack and -10 on subsequent attacks, and that you can use a weapon with the Agile trait to reduce your multiple attack penalty. The Agile trait reads, the multiple attack penalty you take with this weapon on the second attack on your turn is -4 instead of -5 and -8 instead of -10 on the third and subsequent attacks. Thus, other options may exist to reduce the multiple attack penalty, and a power player, such as myself, might try to build a character around the concept. An astute player may ascertain any ranger who chooses the Flurry's Hunter Edge has their multiple attack penalty reduced. Flurry states, your multiple attack penalty for attacks against your hunted prey is -3 or -2 with an agile weapon on your second attack of the turn instead of -5, and -6 or -4 with an agile weapon on your third or subsequent attacks of the turn instead of -10, and is improved at level 17 by the Masterful Hunter class feature to your multiple attack penalty for attacks against your hunted prey is -2, -1 with an agile weapon on your second attack of the turn, and -4, -2 with an agile weapon on the third and subsequent attacks of the turn. Fighters have a 10th level feat, Agile Grace, which effectively doubles the effects of agile weapons. It reads, your multiple attack penalty with agile weapons and agile unarmed attacks becomes -3 for your second attack and -6 for subsequent attacks, rather than -4 and -8. A ranger can forego 3 of their 11 ranger feats in favor of the fighter dedication feat at level 2 or higher, the basic maneuver feat at level 4 or higher, and the advanced maneuver feat at level 6 or higher, given that they meet these feats' prerequisites. A player may choose to forego one of the ranger's level 20 capstone feats, instead taking the advanced maneuver fighter feat at level 20, choosing the level 10 agile grace fighter feat. In effect, the Flurry Hunter Edge reduces multiple attack penalty by 3, then 6, Agile reduces the multiple attack penalty by 1, then 2, and Agile Grace by an additional 1, then 2, meaning that theoretically, their level 20 ranger's multiple attack penalty would be 3 then 6 for most enemies, or 0 then 0 against their hunted prey, right? Wrong. Or at least it could be, depending on how you interpret the wording of Flurry, Agile, and Agile Grace. If parenthetical text isn't a rule reminder, but rather to be read as if the parentheses were commas while the text therein remained, then multiple attack penalty reductions aren't cumulative, because they reduce the multiple attack penalty to a number rather than by a number. Under this reading, which is most commonly understood to be rules as written going by Google search, Flurry and Agile Grace stack with Agile only because they explicitly provide an alternative multiple attack number for Agile weapons in their text, but do not mention one another, so would not stack with each other. Thus, a 20th level Flurry Ranger with the Agile Grace feat would have a multiple attack penalty of -2, then -4 with an agile weapon against their hunted prey, and a multiple attack penalty of -3, then -6 with an agile weapon against any other target. If the text in parentheses within the flurry feature and agile grace feat is taken to be a reminder of related rules interactions, i.e. the agile weapon trait, and the feat functions the same even if the parenthetical text were deleted, then it would stand to reason that flurry can combine cumulatively with agile grace despite each setting the multiple attack penalty to a number, because agile also sets the multiple attack penalty to a number, but is stated to stack with flurry and agile grace. The precedent that parenthetical text may merely be a reminder of a rule interactions contained in the core combat rules can be found in the multiple attack penalty rule we read earlier, which states the multiple attack penalty doesn't apply to attacks you make when it isn't your turn, parenthesis, such as attacks made as part of a reaction like Reactive Strike, end parenthesis. The parenthetical text explains reactions as a way to act outside of your turn, and gives Reactive Strike as an example of a reaction that grants a strike. But if the parenthetical text were removed, the rule would work the same. Other examples of this phenomenon include the press action trait and the second Sting Ranger feat, which you may now pause to read. Thus, I'd interpret multiple attack penalty reductions being cumulative to be rules as written, as counterintuitive as it initially seems. Stepping back from the multiple attack penalty example, this design principle is true of mini feats. Instead of reducing or increasing a given value by x, they increase or reduce a given value to x. Other examples include, but are not limited to, high jump and long jump DC reductions, jump and leap distance increases, shove distance increases, etc. Multiple feats may affect an action, but those feats might fight rather than complement each other. This is Paizo telling players that they are not allowed to take certain feat combinations without explicitly saying so. I believe better solutions can be produced for the problems Paizo is attempting to address, in this case, preventing players from reducing their multiple attack penalty into the negatives, giving themselves a bonus to hit with their attacks, while still allowing multiple attack penalty reductions to stack intuitively for fun factor. Flurry, Agile, and Agile Grace could easily be rewritten to: you reduce your multiple attack penalty for attacks against your hunted prey by 2 on the second attack and by 4 on subsequent attacks to a minimum of 0 for Flurry. The multiple attack penalty you take with this weapon is reduced by 1 on the second attack and by 2 on subsequent attacks to a minimum of 0 for the Agile weapon trait. And your multiple attack penalty with Agile attacks is further reduced by 1 on the second attack and by 2 on subsequent attacks to a minimum of 0 for Agile Grace. The multiple attack penalty rule itself could be rewritten from: if you use an action with the attack trait more than once on the same turn, to if you use an action with the attack trait more than once on your turn. To clarify, multiple attacks via reactions during a single enemy's turn do not suffer from multiple attack penalty. And from your second attack takes a -5 penalty and any subsequent attacks take a -10 penalty, to your second attack takes a -5 penalty and any subsequent attacks take twice that penalty. Your multiple attack penalty can be reduced to a minimum of 0, allowing Flurry, Agile, and Agile Grace to be further shortened to: you reduce your multiple attack penalty for attacks against your hunted prey by 2 for Flurry. The multiple attack penalty you take with this weapon is reduced by 1 for Agile weapon trait, and your multiple attack penalty with Agile weapons and Agile unarmed attacks is further reduced by 1 for Agile Grace. I had hoped the core rulebook remaster would address these issues, yet they emerged without revision. Somewhat surprising, considering that the recently released Centaur Ancestry feat, Distant Archer from Hell of the Wild, reads: you reduce the penalty for attacking beyond your first range increment by 1 to a minimum of 0 when using weapons in the bow weapon group, which is basically what I have proposed for the multiple attack penalty, but for the ranged penalty instead. I hope Paizo will errata the multiple attack penalty and related feats and features to follow this trend. What's this? A bonus tangent. As an aside, I believe Reactive Strike is a bad example for the parenthetical text of the multiple attack penalty, because Reactive Strike not only says your multiple attack penalty doesn't apply to this strike, which is true of all out-of-turn reaction strikes, but also this strike doesn't count towards your multiple attack penalty, which is unique to Reactive Strike. A new player reading Reactive Strike, having been redirected from the multiple attack penalty rule, may misremember or extrapolate this strike doesn't count towards your multiple attack penalty onto all strike reactions. Additionally, the your attack penalty doesn't apply to this strike on Reactive Strike is not in parentheses, and thus applies even on your turn and not solely in reference to the multiple attack penalty rules, such that choosing to trigger Reactive Strike during your own turn is not inherently worse for accuracy compared to using Reactive Strike on an enemy's turn. Again, unique to Reactive Strike, and thus possibly misrepresenting the multiple attack penalty rules intent to new players. For my closing statement, I'll just say that while I enjoy rewriting features within game systems to be as clear and concise as possible, I am well aware of my hypocrisy here, preaching to Paizo the practice of simplicity, whilst writing scripts such as for this very video, verbosely. I am particularly prone to abusing adjectives, those distracting and distasteful filler words, in combination with synonym substitutions to satisfy my appetite for alliteration above all. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below how you've interpreted rules as written for multiple attack penalty reductions.